Welcome to the Top 10 Garden Show with Ken Lain. Listen to Ken's tips, tricks, and garden shortcuts guaranteed to make your gardens more beautiful than ever this year. Now welcome your host, Ken Lain.
So I had mentioned at the bottom of the hour that bark beetle and pinyon pine scale were out how to treat them. You're fertilizing and you are adding or treating them with a bug preventer called systemic drench, so tree and shrub drench. If you need more on that, come talk to us. I can show you exactly how to put it on. It's super easy. You just need a couple watering cans, a bottle or two of this stuff, and you are good to go. You can treat everything in about an hour or less. Really easy, and you're effective for a year. In addition to that, everything in the yard should be fed. They're hungry. They've gone through winter. They're dry as a bone. They really need to activate or hydrate that soil. But before you're doing that, put some fertilizer down, some plant food, and you can encourage new growth coming out of those plants this spring. And so you're setting the stage now for better growth throughout the entire growing season. And what do? So stay away for the love of gardening, please stay away from synthetic fertilizers. You're going to poison us all. My goodness. And get rid of that turf builder, all that garbage that the Miracle Grows. Those are just chemical petroleum-based products. They get into our water supply. If you're on a well, for sure, don't poison yourself by putting a bunch of fertilizers down there. You need to use an organic or all natural fertilizer. Safe. They break down much slower. The plants take in all of the food. They much prefer organic foods, and synthetics. They burn off your worms, mycorrhizal colonies. They do more damage than good. Organics feed your worms, encourage healthier soils, and encourage better fruits, larger flowers, more roses, bigger, better, brighter. And I put together a 7-4-4 all-purpose plant food. The main ingredient, cottonseed meal. Number 2, bird guano. Number 3, some iron, sulfur. It's made for here. It's granular, it's pelletized, so it spreads out, has kind of an earthy smell because it is earthy, but it really makes plants happy, keeps them healthy. If you've got evergreens, because they're being attacked right now, fertilize, start with those. That cottonseed meal is very acidic. And then we're putting soil sulfur in that mix to make it even more acidic because we're trying to counteract your water that's very alkaline. So we're trying to counteract some of that and then stimulate that's the roots so they'll take it up and be a healthier plant. If you've got fruit trees, you really need to fertilize. You got to get out there and get that going. And so fertilize everything with a granular food. You put it right over top of the rock. It goes through the rock. It goes through the fabrics. It gets down the soil. Super, super easy. Just spread it. I usually have my handheld spreader. I fill it up. I just walk around underneath the canopy of my trees, underneath my shrubs, and they're just so happy. They delight in having a little bit of food. They get chubby and full, and they erupt with better, brighter color. So fertilize everything. I cannot emphasize that enough. You're going to fertilize more often here than you do other parts of the country because we don't have natural occurring. We don't have topsoil. We have rock, caliche, clay, but soil. We don't call it soil. We call it other names, nasty names. And so crushed granite. So you need to fertilize more often here than you do other parts of the country. And now this is one of the most critical times right now. The month of March is when you fertilize. Here's an insider tip. What I do in my gardens, my name's Ken. Okay, we're just friends. We're talking over the back fence. It's working in my yard. I think it's going to work in yours too. So I put the all-purpose plant food down over everything right now. I just put it out and I don't work it in. I just put it out there and I'm going to expect the rains and the weather and the irrigation to release it over time, over the next 3 months. I'm not in a hurry. I'm in this for the long haul. In addition, I get a bag of soil sulfur. I know I mentioned that we put a little bit of soil sulfur in the food we make here for local gardens. But plants, they really like things more acidic. But our soil and our water is so alkaline that it affects how things bloom, the size of the fruits. It just affects how the gardens look. So in the early spring, I do two things. I put the all-purpose food down and I put soil sulfur down. Sulfur, when you lower that pH, it makes them even greener and it brings that fragrance out. Oh, if you get that pH just right, pH is sort of like if you've had a pool or a hot tub, you're always checking the pH. You get the pH too high, you get it too low, you jump in, you feel like your skin's going to crawl off if it gets too high or too low. Well, plants are the same way, only they can't get out of the pool. They're stuck there. And so their roots are just sitting there, just being agitated by this high pH. Well, if we can lower that down, and sulfur, it literally looks like little sulfur pellets. And as water hits it, it just slowly makes the soil more acidic. Your plants just go crazy with that. They love it. Bigger roses, bigger peaches, plums. You've got more aggressive growth on your aspens and your pine trees. It just makes everything look great. If you've got anything that loves acid, like hydrangeas and hollies and camellias and all these daphnes, even lilacs, the fragrance of a lilac will just erupt in that afternoon sunlight. Just kind of fragrant. The entire part of the yard will be filled with that fragrance of lilac just by lowering that pH. A lot of that's chemistry, not so much the DNA of the plant. We're simply bringing out the most out of those spring bloomers. And so that's the way you do it. So right now, two things: fertilize everything with the all-purpose plant food. I do have a second food. If you're into organic vegetables, fruits, berries, grapes, that kind of, I did make a all natural 6447 fruit vegetable food. Okay, so 644 nitrogen, phosphorus, potash, 7% calcium. So it's still pelletized, all organic, completely, but it's pelletized, so it's easy to spread. And then as the plants break it down, what calcium does in addition to your regular food is it actually ups the size of your fruit and brings out the flavor again, brings out the brightness. So calcium was what does that. I know that you're going to be lacking calcium because our alkalinity is so high. The clay soils just they wreak havoc on your trees. If I know that, and I can help you put the right fertilizer down that I know is going to react better with your trees and shrubs and keep it all organic. Well, that's what local neighborhood garden centers are for. We know the gardens. We're here to help you. I'm not some buyer out of Arkansas. I send 200 of those to every one of my stores. No, we're local yokel. We're here. We're friends. We know gardens. We're going to help you get bigger apples, more cherries, better apricots. We're going to help you get bigger clusters of grapes simply by the food that you put down. So that 6447 fruit and vegetable food, or the original all-purpose plant food 744, it's all natural too. But the second I put a mineral in there, I can't call it organic. If you put iron and sulfur in there, although they're natural ingredients, you can't technically call it organic. So I'm an organic gardener mostly. But sometimes my evergreen trees, they prefer that cottonseed meal in the other one. So I've got two bagged. You get your handheld spreader, just spread it around there and go. That's how you use it.
Growing up in Prescott, we knew spring was here when my grandmother's lilacs bloomed. I'm Lisa Waters Lain, and my grandmother would be thrilled with the new bloomerang purple lilacs at Waters Garden Center. They don't just bloom once in spring, they bloom again in summer. Mine bloomed 3 times last year, making spring last well into fall, and just $29.99. Come check out all the heavenly new sights and scents that are making this spring the most beautiful ever. Lilacs like Grandma used to grow and better. Waters Garden Center in Prescott.
You're listening to garden expert Ken Lain. He can be found throughout the week at Waters Garden Center in Prescott. Thanks for tuning in to the Top 10 Garden Show.